Hi guys, so I have been getting a lot of people message me and ask me how I made my sourdough starter. So I'm just going to do a quick video and show you how I did that. It is the most simple process. I will tell you that the hardest part with sourdough is just staying on top of it because you do have to use it. You do have to consistently feed it or it just kind of overruns. And I actually made two, which I probably should have just made one, but so we've got one going here. This one has been left out on my counter. This is the one I've been using the most, and I've been using it every few days. This one I put into my refrigerator because it does slow down that activation. It kind of just slows it down a little bit. You don't have to feed it as often if you put it in the refrigerator. So, but I did have to pull it out today because it was about time to feed it. So I pulled it out today, I fed it, and I'm going to use it tonight to make some drop biscuits that I'm going to throw into the freezer. So rather than making a new mason jar of starter, because I cannot keep up with hardly just one of these, I'm just going to pretend show you. So the best way I do is I really like the open mouth mason jars. Whenever you first start your starter, you're going to go a little bit heavier on your portion sizes, and then it's going to kind of get smaller. So for sourdough, some people do it a little bit different. I have found this recipe I actually really like. So what I do is I have my flour. You're going to take half a cup, so just a half a cup of flour, and you're going to empty it into your mason jar. The best flour is wheat flour or unbleached flour. I am using bleached flour because it's what I had on hand and it works just fine. I'm just assuming that probably unbleached because, one, it's healthier and better for your body anyway, is better for the sourdough because all recipes, most of them call for unbleached flour. So if you have unbleached flour, that's the best way to go, or a wheat flour or like a rye, that would be the best way. So you're going to empty your half a cup of flour into your mason jar, and then you're going to have a half a cup of filtered water, and you're going to mix it. That's all you're doing. Half a cup of flour, half a cup of filtered water. If I don't tear up my kitchen, really like to use the butt end of my wooden sticks, my wooden spoons, to stir up my sourdough. It needs to be thoroughly mixed. And then you just put that lid on and you leave it alone. The very next day, you're going to get it back out. You're going to give it a really good stir. Some people toss theirs and use sourdough discard, but that's not necessary unless you are just making an overabundance of sourdough. So if you go smaller on your portion sizes, whenever you begin to feed it, then you will not have to do the discard. So day 2, you're going to do the exact same thing, only you're not going to do as much. So I'm only going to do a quarter cup of flour this time and a quarter cup of filtered water. I'm going to give it a good stir, put the lid on it, set it aside. I'm going to do that for day 2, 3, and 4. So day 1, you're doing a half a cup of flour, half a cup of filtered water. Day 2, 3, and 4, you're going to do a quarter cup of flour and a quarter cup of water. Every day, give it a really good stir. Some people like to just take it and shake it up. That's fine as well. Just make sure everything is really incorporated really nicely. And then after that, you don't have to feed it except for about every 3 days if you leave it on your counter. Now, if you want to slow down that activation process, you can put it in your refrigerator, like I said, for this one, and then you only have to feed it once a week. Now, I will tell you that if you decide to use your sourdough, so it's Friday night and you want to use your sourdough Saturday morning for pancakes, you need to feed it Friday. So if you have this one and it's been sitting out on the counter for 3 days and you've not fed it yet, but you're going to make something with it tomorrow, you have to feed it that day. So always feed it a good 24 hours before you plan on using it. The same thing with the refrigerated one. I took it out of my refrigerator. I fed it this morning. I'm going to use it tonight. Now, whenever we start talking about time frames with the sourness of sourdough, the longer you let it set before using it, the more sour your product is. So if I want something that's not as sour, I'm probably going to feed it and use it within 8 to 10 hours. If you want something that has that really strong sour taste, then use it within like 12 to 15 hours. That's it. It is the most simple process. Again, it's just really just trying to keep up with it. Whenever you decide what you want to make, Pinterest, that has been my go-to. I've just been typing in Pinterest like sourdough biscuits, sourdough pancakes, sourdough pretzels, sourdough loaf bread. And I'm telling you, I cannot breathe. This pregnancy just takes all my breath away. And then just use whatever the recipe calls for. I made sourdough biscuits yesterday that were really, really tasty. I loved them. So today, since I fed my sourdough and I really need to use something, I'm probably going to make 2 or 3 more batches of those biscuits, and then I'm going to let them set overnight, and then I'm going to pop them in some Ziploc bags and throw them in the freezer. That way, whenever my kids wake up in the morning and they're hungry, or it's Sunday and we're trying to rush around and get ready for church, or we have somewhere to go, then I'm going to pop them in the oven, heat them up, make some gravy, biscuits and gravy for breakfast. We're all done and good. Same thing with bread. Whenever you make like your sourdough bread, I made 2 huge loaves in my Dutch oven the other day, so it was way too much bread. And so I sliced up one and I wrapped it up and I put it in the freezer. And in the next couple days, I'm going to make some homemade spaghetti, and I'm going to pop that sourdough bread into the oven with a little bit of butter and garlic and Parmesan cheese, and we're going to have some garlic bread. So you really just kind of have to get really inventive and creative with what you're going to use your sourdough for. But the basis of making it is so, so simple. And I tell you, go small because it breeds and makes so much. And I have a family of 6, so fixing to be 7. So I thought, oh my goodness, I need 2, and it's still too much. So even my saying like a quarter, like I fed it with like a quarter cup, you could literally feed it with a couple tablespoons, and it's fine so long as you were feeding it to keep the activation alive. So if you have any questions, drop them in the comments. I am happy to help.